Hello and welcome to this handover video of the model year 25 Volvo XC90 T8 Ultra. Throughout this video we're going to go around the vehicle, highlight where everything is, where you'll find obviously things like the bonnet lever, how to set up the third row seats, and generally just go through a bit of an in and out of the layout of the XC90, highlighting some of the differences between Core, Plus and Ultra as we go along. And then from there we'll head inside, delve into a bit more of the software, where everything is in terms of controls, and see how we get on from there. Lovely. So without any further ado, here we are, the Volvo XC90 T8 model year 25 Ultra Dark, finished in gorgeous denim blue. And what we're going to do is have a quick run round of the car just to show you where everything is and do the basic sort of layout from outside. First and foremost, keyless entry system. We have got on all four doors this little nodule that you can see here. On a lot of cars you may have had previously, that would be a little button for locking and unlocking. For this car, hand behind the handle will unlock the car, and then simply thumb, finger, wipe your hand across, it doesn't matter, that will then lock the vehicle for you. Now, a couple of bits from driver's side that we just need to be aware of for this video. First and foremost, fuel cap. It's pressurized on this car, so we give that a push, it will then tell us on the screen that we're ready to refuel, and then we can head to the fuel cap, and we're just going to pop at the same time down on the right hand side here the bonnet lever, so we can come back to that in a second. Now, fuel cap is always going to be on the driver's side for the UK market, and then all we do, push pop open and then simply pop the fuel straight in. There's nothing to undo here, just pop the fuel straight in. It can be E5 or E10 fuel. Volvo will recommend anything above 97 RON, 97 octane, whatever you want to call it, just for sort of performance and life of the engine basically. Now moving around to the back, if you've never had a Volvo before, release button for the boot is underneath the L. Alternatively, because we have the keyless entry system, we have the ability to simply swipe our foot to open and close the tailgate. So that is your gesture function, and it's always around this left hand side here. It's a fairly big sensor. You can do a straight kick or you can do a swipe left or right, whatever you'd prefer to do. Now in the back we will go through the third row in a minute, there'll be a separate part of the video for that. Parcel shelf obviously can fit in just behind the rear seats. If you've got the third row seats up, it cannot stay in place, it has to be moved out the way. All model year 25 vehicles will come with both leads. You have a Type 2 Mode 3 lead, which is used for a charge point, general out and about charging, or a Type 2 Mode 2 lead, which is a good old-fashioned 3-pin plug, which you can use at home in a general outdoor socket. They will also come from a brand new vehicle with a mesh luggage net, dog grille, whatever you want to call it. Simply clips in above the rear headrest there in these little things here, and then ties down to the little metal thresholds that we've got to create a little net. From there, let's just quickly move that out of the way so we can get into a bit under the boot floor. Preparation is key, obviously, as you can see. And then under the boot floor we have got a little space that you can keep your lead, so there's a little recess just there, and then failing that we just grab the false floor, and then you'll have under the boot floor on these locking wheel nut, tyre inflation kit, so on and so forth. Majority of them will be without a spare wheel, purely because on the Ultra they have the air suspension, so we can't have them underneath. And then finally, being the Ultra again, we have got the ability to raise or lower the suspension manually from here. Nice thing is, once we're done in the boot, simply push the button up on the top here, or wave your foot if you so wish. We've got close the boot, lock the car. As soon as we push either of them, the suspension will reset itself, so it self-levels. There we go. So, running around, a couple more things just to show you from the outside. If the key battery was ever to fail in the key itself, this is where your manual key blade entrance is. That's how you can gain entry into the vehicle should you need to. We then have one of the most important bits, obviously being a plug-in hybrid, is the charge point. So, little place there to hold the cap. Charge point itself, which is going to very briefly go through this, has a little LED light here that when the car is ready for charging, you'll have a light of some sort. A blue light means the car is scheduled to charge at a later date, or that nothing is happening. If it is a red light, it's a traffic light system. So red is bad, that means stop, check the cable, check the charge point, check the car. If it still doesn't work, you've tried a different cable, tried a different charge point, then we need to have a look at it. If it is an amber light, it means everything's connected, everything's reading as it should do, but there's not enough power. So that could be you haven't turned your 3-pin plug on, or you haven't told the charge point you're using that you are actually connected to it. That's normally the giveaway. And then finally, flashing green or green solid is charging or charged. So pop that closed. And then from there, heading into the bonnet, if you're eagle-eyed enough, you'll see just about under there, sorry, there we go, little yellow lever. Basically follow the diagonal line, very tip of the iron mark, push down to the right on the little yellow lever, and then up goes the bonnet. Now, thankfully Volvo have made it nice and easy. The only thing you should ever need to worry about is completely separate to the engine bay anyway, because it's over here. Only other things you may want to be aware of: positive and negative charge points for the battery. If you're likely to leave the car for an extended period of time, we're talking months, not weeks, then you would ideally fully charge the hybrid battery and leave a trickle charger on the 12 volt as well, just in case. Apart from that, we have fuse box, air box, oil input. They don't drink a lot of oil, so you shouldn't need to worry about that. And then all of our fluids are hiding under this mess of caps here. Again, something that realistically in a general ownership should be service to service, you should never be touching. Lovely. So very quickly, let's just go through the 7-seat configuration on the car. Now, first and foremost, all 3 seats are completely individual, and you'll see underneath they have all got their own individual metal bar. That is for your forwards and backwards. They can all be adjusted as such. On both of the outer seats, you'll have on the outer part of the seat this little lever. That allows us to either fold the seat completely flat or incline, decline the seat to make sure you're as comfortable as you can be. The middle seat has that via a ring pull, so that's what's in there. To get into the back, both of the outer seats will have a little lever on the shoulder cuff. We simply move that, push it out the way, and then we have our rear seats. Now, these are manually controlled, so we just simply pop it into place, push the little headrest up, and there we have it. There's the access to the rear seats. Both sides have got little cup holders, little area, little cubby holes, and of course the air conditioning throughout the rear. So we have got that as well. Now, putting these back down, even for myself who's incredibly short and one-handed at the moment, you can either do this from the boot or from the middle of the car. Simply put, like that. So before we jump into the car and start going through controls, switches, things like that, I'm just going to very quickly do what we've got on the door card and the actual controls for the seats, just whilst we can do that from the outside. Door card itself is a nice easy layout. We've got our memory function for the seats at the top here. The memory function will save your wing mirrors, which are adjusted here, and of course your seat controls, and then is saved simply by pushing M and the number you want it to correspond to. Aside from that, we have manual locking if you're not a fan of the auto locking. The car does do that anyway for you. And then we've got all your window controls, child locks, window locks, and if you need to fold the mirrors in whilst you're driving, simply push L and R together. That will bring them in, push them again, back out they go. Moving down to the seat, regardless whether or not you have got Core Plus Ultra, this will look very similar across all of them. The Core won't have that adjustment at the front, it will just have these basic dials. Vertical lever is your inclination, so that's your backrest, that's all that one will do. Horizontal is your forwards and backwards by moving the entire thing, or lifting the front up and down, or the rear up and down. If you tilt the rear, so the bit under your bum, that does tilt the seat forwards and backwards ever so slightly as it does it, so you may need to then adjust just to sort of counteract that. From there, the buttons on the face are, at the very basic stage, your lumbar control. Otherwise, tilting this lip up or down will allow you via the touchscreen to see what aspects of the car you're controlling. So on an Ultra it could be massage, could be side bolsters, lumbar, cushion extensions. You would then use the buttons on the face of the dial to then adjust whichever aspect you want to do. Again, all of those adjustments will save the memory apart from the massage function, that will not save. And there we have it. We're going to jump into the car and start to go through the cockpit. Lovely. So we now find ourselves in the cockpit of the car. So we're going to focus on both sides of the steering wheel, the 2 stalks, and of course the screen in front of us. Steering column itself is height and rake adjustable. It's a manual lever which is just underneath where my thumb is there. Oh, sorry, that's my camera. Where my thumb is there, that releases it off. Move it up, down, in and out, and pop it back into the position that you want it to be in. So we're going to start with the 2 stalks on the column. Nice, easy aspect. Right hand side is all of your wiper function. Manually controlled by pushing down for a single wipe, up for intermittent, medium and fast. We do of course have the auto button, which is that tiny little switch there. Believe it or not, that is a little push button, and that will appear on the screen in front of us to let us know that's activated. We can then adjust the sensitivity of that by using the textured scroll wheel, and then pulling towards us washes the front windscreen, push away washes the back, and then the rear wiper is activated at the end of the stalk. Tilting up is intermittent, tilting down is constant, back in the middle is off. From that, we then have the left-hand side stalk. So indicators, as we're all used to. We have flash for high beam, push away to lock the high beam on at night time, or to activate your home safety lights should you need to. So that's push that away, that will activate the home safety feature. We then have the ability to alter the lights. So we have, of course, off, side light, dip beam, auto, and then being the ultra version, we have, by tilting to the top, the adaptive shadow function technology headlamps. In all others, you will have the auto high beam anyway, auto main beam, whatever you want to call it, and that will activate, as you can see at the top there. Now it does spring load back to auto, so don't worry if it's still headed here. As long as that symbol is there, that system is on. We then will always have on all of the cars these two switches here. Annoyingly though, the top one doesn't do anything, because on some vehicles they have separate front fog lamps. But on these cars, because of the cooling for the hybrid system at the bottom of the bumper, they don't have the lower front fog lamps. However, by turning on the rear ones, which will activate here, you'll see just in the reflection in the window in the front of me, you can see the lights alter anyway. So you can just about see that hopefully every time I turn them on and off. So the front lights will adjust to fog anyway once you push the bottom one. They just don't have a separate switch for them. And then finally, at the very end of the stalk is a reset button for your trip computer. Now, moving outward, let's focus more on the buttons that are here to begin with. Excuse me. There we go. So, left-hand side is predominantly your cruise control. On and off in the middle, plus and minus changes the speed. Pressing and holding will do single mile an hour increments. Tapping will do 5 mile an hour jumps. And then, because we have the adaptive cruise control on these cars, 2 lines gets you closer to the car in front for your braking distance, 3 lines get you further away. So that is your radar control, as some cars will call it. We'll talk about our braking distance, that's what we will use this for. Now the right and the left arrows have 2 very different functions. The left arrow turns on this little button here, this little symbol, sorry, that deactivates your speed limit warning system. So if you're not a fan of it, every time you jump in the car, give that a push, it will turn that off. The right button then switches from factory settings the pilot assist off. So pilot assist is adaptive cruise control plus the steering assist. Pressing the right arrow once you've set the system on will turn off the steering. So it will just give you the standard braking distance and speed control. You can turn that off within the settings menu, which I'll show you later. And then right hand side is your control of the car as the owner. So OK button clears any messages off the screen, and then we can use the arrows if we've got multiple options to choose what we want to do. If there is nothing happening on the screen, that OK button lets us see our odometer. So we don't normally have that on the car at the moment, so that just allows us to find it. Otherwise, up and down are volume, right and left, change channels, tracks, stations, whatever you want to call it. Of course, if a phone call comes through to you, SatNav wants to redirect, these are your buttons to accept what you want to do. The bottom one just switches the map off the screen in front of us. So that's our calm view. You may see it noted down as. The top one is then voice activation. And I'm going to come back to that in a second, but that is your ability to talk to the Google Assistant in the car. And then finally, just highlighting the screen for us here. Nice easy layout. We've got left-hand side is all of our speed control, and of course what speed we should be doing. We have things like lights, lane keeping aid, wipers, temperature all across the bottom. We then have fuel and battery range. Sorry, that's at the top, that's at the bottom, fuel and battery range. And then around the right hand side here, we've got power versus charge, along with our gears as well. But if I put the car into gear, what you'll see is this little fuel drop disappears up to here. That is telling us that unless this line here touches that fuel drop, we're going to be running on electric. Now we can force the car into electric, which I'll show you where that hides later on. But if you just leave it in the general hybrid mode, which is its default setting, it will choose what it does at any given point. But if that line touches that fuel drop, that's when your electric is going to stop and the engine will kick in. Anything going downward from there is going to be charged back into the battery, and that is what B mode is for. So if we put the car into drive and then flick back again into B mode is battery regeneration. So every time you lift off the throttle, the car will slow down, and all of that regenerated sort of kinetic energy that's being recovered, hence the KERS system, will be stepped down, and a lot of it will be put back into the battery to allow for more usage of the electric moving forward. So that's what your B plus and minus mode is. The plus and minus means you can change gears if you so wish. You don't have to. Driving with those modes, the most optimal way to do that is to stay in drive when you're actually physically moving forward. Every time you need to slow down, pull back on the gear lever, use B mode, and then when you need to pull away again, just pull back, and then off you go. Wonderful. But that is then everything in front of us. So just a very quick video here to go through what's through the middle. Cubby hole in the middle hides our twin USB points. They're USB-Cs throughout the car. There's 2 in the rear and there's 2 here as well. The white ringed USB-C lead is the ability to run Apple CarPlay. For the time being, that is wired, so that's where you will activate that. From there, we then have our 2 handbrakes. We have a manual version or an auto hold version. As long as that little green light is on, that is your auto hold feature. Start stop is always towards the driver to ignite the engine. If you just want ignition, leave your foot off the brake, twist and hold for about 3-4 seconds, and that will turn on just the electrics. We then have coffee cup holders, whatever you want to do with it, put your keys there potentially. There is a key reader, so if the key battery is failing, you can still pop the keys in the middle there and the car will still recognize the key. We then have wireless phone charger, a good old-fashioned 12-volt socket in the front, and then obviously the gear lever itself, which is push forwards for reverse, pull backwards for drive, and hit the P for park. And then finally, before we make our way to the touchscreen, the buttons underneath the touchscreen are fairly industry standard. We've got hazard warning lights on the far right. We've got some models will have a heated windscreen, this particular car being the Ultra, and having the heads-up display, which you may have seen earlier, flashing away there. Obviously, it doesn't flash in real life. Cameras can't pick up the LED very well. So this car only has demisters for the front. Some will have a heated windscreen, so that will be a dual operation if you have a heated windscreen. Heated rear windscreen and door mirrors, same on all cars. And then our change channels, volume, mute and unmute the radio. We then have our glove box opener, as you can see. Unfortunately, it's not very James Bond-esque. You have to close it yourself, I'm afraid. And then finally, this one here, which looks like it could be an input for something. Don't stick anything in there. That is your air quality sensor. So that's just measuring the quality of air inside the car and doing what it needs to do without you needing to do anything. Wonderful. So if you're still awake and you're still with me, congratulations, because this is probably the part of the video that you actually wanted to see. This is the Google infotainment system that we run on all of our vehicles now. Basic layout, a home button will always bring you back to this screen. If we press and hold it, it will allow us to clean the screen, like so. So you can give it a quick wipe over and off you go. And then press and hold again to wake everything back up. From there, we then have kind of 3 sections. We have the bar at the bottom, the bar at the top, and then obviously the chunky bit through the middle. The bar across the top is fairly similar to our phones, tablets, whatever you want to call it. We've got information to do with the internet, GPS, time, profile status, and then by dragging this down, we have our notifications page. So if there's anything the car needs to tell you about, it will likely be here, like for example, setting up your profile. If this is a brand new car for you, you will hopefully have that appear, in which case you can actually follow that and set the profile up. Setting up all the information for the car is not going to be done through this video. There's a separate video which should be on the Lipscomb YouTube channel, how to set up the car from the get-go, and all of the sort of system settings, everything like that in a bit more detail. For this one today, we're going to do a bit of an overview of it. From there, the bottom row then hides an awful lot of information. We've got quick adjustment of temperature with the red and blue to heat up or cool down. We can tap on the temperature and access dual zone climate. We can access fan speed, direction, and obviously our heated screens, things like that. We then also have the ability to control rear by turning on the third row, and parking, preconditioning, timers, whatever you want to call it. We also have top right corner, a hidden aspect which a lot of people fail to find, is our automated heating settings. So if you want the car via either the app that you can download and utilize, or every time you get in the car and turn it on, if you'd like the car to turn on things like your heated seats, you can do that, providing it's under 8 degrees outside, the car will turn them on. But closing that back down, we then have, flanking either side of that, you'll have at very least heated seats in all of the cars. So whether it's Core Plus or Ultra. The Ultra will have the addition of ventilated seats, so on those nice hot days that's a lovely feature to have. And then majority of cars will have a heated steering wheel, also could be added as part of the climate pack. Passenger seat obviously has the same functions should you need to. We then have finally as well camera icon. Now a lot of cars will have just that camera standard, or you will have the 360-degree view. Now the reason I love this button here is because obviously the camera will deploy itself in reverse, but it gives us the ability to look very quickly at like a blind view camera. So if we're at a T-junction, can't see very well, pulling out of a shopping centre, this gives you the ability to see what's coming from the very front of the car. So it gives you a little bit more room to see should you need to. And then finally, flanking either side at the bottom, we have our applications menu, the ability to move applications from tile to tile, download more applications via the Play Store, look at our owner's manual, whatever you want to do, you can do it within here. And what I mean by the tiles is on the home screen, we then have our 4 tiles, and whatever you decide to put on each tile, you find by simply swiping from left to right. And then finally, the settings menu is where you will find absolutely everything you can do in terms of preferences to alter the vehicle. Whether that's in the hybrid cars, for example, changing your drive modes, might be if you want to change air suspension settings, that's all hiding in there. Your controls is where pretty much everything else hides, so things like your wireless phone charger, whether you want the sunroof to close itself, so on and so forth. Obviously, being an Ultra, we've got the head-up display as well. In the video that I've created for the controls of setting up the vehicle, it's this vehicle that we've used as well. So there will be some features that Plus's cores won't have, for example, but we will go through it in detail anyway. And then one of the biggest ones is going to be profiles. Now, as I said, hopefully you'll be getting into your nice new car and you'll have this complete profile set up, in which case you click on there, follow the process. It will ask you to put in a Volvo ID, it will ask you to choose your privacy settings, add your phone for Bluetooth, and then add your Google account to the car as well. The Volvo app has to be done from here. That isn't completed via that profile setup. The app is done from in here, and again, you follow the process. Obviously this one's got a paired phone already, but you follow the process to set that up. And then from there, back to the home screen. All of the home tiles are as you would expect them to be. So you can control, do what you want to do with it, much like you would your phone. For the sat nav, for example, you would type in whatever you want. Doesn't need to be a set pattern, doesn't need to be postcodes, doesn't need to be anything. You can put whatever you want into there. Alternatively, something I completely skipped past earlier, which I'm going to come back to now, is voice activation. So if I wanted to do anything to do with the touchscreen, really, within reason, I can say, "Okay, Google, can you take me to Lipscomb Volvo in Canterbury, please?"
Navigating to Lipscomb Volvo Cars, Canterbury.
There we go, we have arrived. Alternatively, I could say, "Okay, Google, can you turn the temperature down, please?"
Sure, turning down the temperature.
Failing that, we can also adjust very basic things like, "Okay, Google, play TalkSport on radio."
Playing TalkSport on radio.
And there we have it. Fantastic. Well, there we have it. That is the overview of the model year 25 XC90 T8 Ultra. Of course, if you want a bit more of an in-depth overview of things like the Google system, then head to the Lipscomb YouTube website. we've got an overview of that as well, which again is myself. Hopefully you won't get too bored of my voice. But there we have it. That is XC90 Model Year 25 T8 Ultra.